Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 41 of the Tick Bootcamp podcast. The title of today's interview is We Have Lyme, Now What? An interview with Claire Dalton. My name is Richard Johannesson.
And I'm Matt Sabatello.
Today's podcast guest is Claire Dalton. Claire Dalton is a 22-year-old woman from Utah. Claire grew up with 5 siblings in a traditional family setting. For most of Claire's life, her mother suffered from a debilitating illness that the medical community could not explain. One of Claire's strongest childhood memories was the fear that she would come home every day not knowing if her mother was going to be alive. Although her mother's illness was something that they went through as a family, Claire said it never crossed her mind that this is something that she would end up with. Unfortunately, at the age of 17, Claire began to exhibit the symptoms of her mother's tick disease. The early onset of symptoms did not interfere with Claire's early life plan, and she attended Southern Utah University to major in vocal performance. During her first semester, she said everything exploded in her life. Her pain symptoms became so debilitating that she had to drop out of college. Today, Claire describes herself as having regained about 80% of her health. To support other chronically ill people, she started a blog entitled Chronically Beautiful, and she started a small online business. Hi, Claire Dalton, and welcome to the program.
Hi, thanks for having me on.
We're blessed to have you, Claire, and we'd like you to begin by sharing with our listeners what your life was like before you got sick.
Yeah, for sure. So I got sick at around age 17 is when I started having my worst symptoms. And I grew up, I'm from Utah, so I grew up in like a really big family, and I have 5 siblings, and we just had like a big, happy, classic family home. And I feel like I was a fairly outgoing kid, and I had a very happy childhood, and I was pretty healthy, and I just had a good life for the most part when I was younger. And then it was when my mom first got sick with Lyme disease that my life kind of started to change.
Claire, can you share with us what your mother's Lyme disease journey was like?
Yeah. So my mom got sick. Well, my mom was on and off sick, like almost every winter. It seemed like she got really sick, pretty much all growing up. But, she could manage it, and she would always come out of it. And then it was when I was about 16 that my mom went down for the long run, and she got really sick. Like, she had every symptom under the sun, and she was pretty much like totally just, I don't even know how she lived through it, because she was going through so much pain all the time, and her entire body had every kind of pain, and we didn't have any answers, and we didn't know what was going on. And she went to all the doctors, and nobody had any answers for her. And in fact, she even had a doctor that said to her, well, we don't know what's wrong with you, because you have so many symptoms, and there is no disease with all your symptoms. So there's nothing we can do for you at this point. And at that point, she was just ready to just stop with the doctors, because she had done everything. And, I would come home every day to not even knowing if my mom was going to be alive, because she was so sick. And I'd wake up in the middle of the night to her screaming, because she was in so much physical pain that she just couldn't handle it. And so that's kind of my mom's story of when she first got sick, and before we even had any answers.
Did you ever imagine that you might also contract the same illness that your mother had when she was going through her battle?
Definitely when I was in high school, it never crossed my mind. Like, it was definitely something that we went through as a family, and it was definitely something that I was very deeply into, because I lived at home. But it never crossed my mind that this was something that I would end up with, and that I would have to go through the same thing that I watched my mom go through for so long.
How quickly did you connect your symptoms to your mother's illness?
So when I was about 17 was when my symptoms started coming, and my first few symptoms were like mental symptoms. So I had really bad cognitive dysfunction when I was 17. And I had a really hard time in school. Like, I was usually a straight A student, and all of a sudden my grades started to drop, and I just couldn't pick up on any concepts at all. And I just thought I was kind of stupid, but it was really abnormal that I just couldn't remember anything. And I had really bad anxiety, really bad depression. And then I had endometriosis type symptoms. And so I would have really bad pain in my lower abdomen for like the longest time. And it was very abnormal, but doctors were just like, you're young, it'll even out, it'll be fine. But that's when we finally started to realize when it never evened out and never went away. That's when, right before I was about to go to college, that's when my mom was like, we need to get this checked out because this is so like similar and so different and so bizarre that we need to get this checked out. And so I went like right before I went to my freshman year of college to go and get all of the testing that I did.
So Claire, what was your plan once you went to college? Where were you going to go to college, and what were your professional plans after college?
Yeah, so I always love telling people about my plan because I had a plan for life, and like nothing was going to stop me in this plan. And so I was going to go to Southern Utah University, and I was going to be a vocal performance major because I grew up singing. That's what I did. I took private voice lessons all growing up, and everyone expected me to be a vocal performance major and to go on and do music. And I wanted to get married when I was young, and I wanted to have a lot of kids. And I just had this plan like laid out for when this was going to happen and what age it was going to happen. And then everything changed when I got sick.
Now, Claire, were you able to attend college after your illness began to develop?
Yeah, no. So I started school and I went to my first semester as a vocal performance major. And that's really when everything just like exploded in my life, because then I got like the real pain symptoms, like joint pain, muscle pain, headaches. I had heart palpitations. My heart rate was crazy. Even just sitting, it'd be like 120. I couldn't handle anything. I was having like 5 to 6 panic attacks a day, and everything just plummeted into the ground. And eventually about halfway, probably about 2/3 the way through my freshman year of college, my mom called me up, and I'd had my diagnosis at that point, and she was just like, all right, Claire, like, we got to figure out what we're doing from here because this isn't working. And I pretty much decided to go home because I was like, I can't handle this anymore. Like, there's no way I can do school and handle all these crazy things that are happening. And so I went home, and that was the end of college for me.
Claire, when you first started having your symptoms when you were 17 and finishing up high school, did your mother have a diagnosis of Lyme disease yet at that point?
Yeah, so my mom was diagnosed right about probably towards the end of me being 17, probably closer to when I was 18. That's when she had finally had a diagnosis. Even then, it was like one of those diagnoses where they were like, well, you have Lyme disease, but there's nothing we can do for you. And so we were still kind of in like this fog of like, I have no idea what we're doing other than that. We have Lyme disease. Great. Now what?
And as your symptoms started to progress more and more, when did you and your family realize the overlap between her symptoms and yours, and that you potentially had it as well?
Yeah, so that was definitely when I was 18 and right about ready to leave for college, because at that point she was on treatment for Lyme disease. She'd been on treatment for about a year, and like it was definitely keeping her alive. It didn't cure her or anything dramatic, but that first treatment that she went on, it kept her alive. And that's when we started realizing that I was getting a lot of similar like bizarre health problems that just didn't seem to add up.
What type of treatment did they have your mother on at that time?
Yeah, so that treatment is actually a treatment that I don't even think they do anymore. And it's called the BX protocol, and it's like an energy catalyst. And it's something that it's like a doctor from out of the country that he came up with. And it's interesting because you pretty much like the whole process is that you oxygenate yourself. So you sit on oxygen for an hour or two, or for me, I think I slept with oxygen for a while. And so you oxygenate your cells, and then you take this energy catalyst, which it's just like a couple of sprays under the tongue, and it's supposed to go in and kill your Lyme bacteria. And it was great, but the problem with it is that it didn't teach anything about detoxing. And so we would have these major Herxheimer reactions that just, like, the Herx thing almost killed us more than the disease itself. And so it definitely kept us alive, but it was just the first step. It definitely wasn't the answer.
Claire, you shared with us a minute ago that you're from a large family. Do any of your siblings or anyone else in your family suffer from the same symptoms that you and your mother were suffering from?
Yeah, so I mean, me and my mom believe that some of my siblings have Lyme disease because they do have some similar symptoms. With that said, none of my siblings have gone like hardcore down. None of them have been bedridden, and some of them don't even believe that this is a real thing. So it's definitely a different family dynamic because I believe that some of them probably do, but they do have stronger immune systems. My mom had me when she was sicker because I'm the youngest than she did when she had all the rest of them. So it definitely didn't affect them as much as it has affected me.
Claire, what type of testing did you and your mother get to get your diagnosis with Lyme disease?
Yeah, so I had the I-spot Lyme test, and I believe my mom had the Western blot test is what she had. And so for me, my test came back positive, and it was just super instant. I feel really blessed because mine came back right away. My mom, it was definitely more like hers. She had tests that came back negative or equivocal or whatever, and it definitely was a lot more of a struggle to get a diagnosis for her. But mine came back positive right away. And if anything, that confirms it too, because I've never been bit by a tick or anything like that. And so it definitely confirmed too that mom has this, whether the doctors tell us it or not. So.
And how do you think you got Lyme disease if you were never bit by a tick? Do you think you just never saw the tick, or do you think that you possibly got it congenitally from your mother?
Yeah, I definitely think that I have congenital Lyme disease. I definitely think that I got it from my mother. My mother was bit by a tick when she was 9, and like they pulled it out of her head, and it was huge. Like she had it in there for quite a while. And she always had like ongoing, like on and off health problems since then. And so we know, like after connecting all the dots, like she's had to have had it for quite a long time.
What doctors were you and your mother seeing throughout this process that were helping you with your treatment?
Yeah, so my mom saw every doctor under the sun. I couldn't even tell you all the doctors that she has seen. But for me, the one doctor that I went to that I got my diagnosis from was Dr. Andrew Peterson. And he's the one that, he started me out just doing all of the blood tests that checks like all of your levels, like everything. So like your mold levels, your mycoplasma levels, your nutrients, like everything. And like once he saw that my mold levels were like in the 500s and my mycoplasma levels were like in the like 300s, that's when he was like, okay, well, this is like typical Lyme, so let's do a Lyme test. And so he was really great in helping, but I don't believe that he even diagnoses Lyme disease anymore, just because he's had so many people come after him for doing that now his practice looks totally different than when I went to him.
So Claire, it sounds like your mother was sick for decades before she got a proper diagnosis. Was she ill that entire time, or did it really just start towards the end of that period?
Yeah, so like I said, me growing up, I feel like every winter my mom got sick, like for like the whole winter. It wasn't just like she'd get the flu, like she'd get sick for the whole winter, and then she'd get better. And like in the summer and the spring, she'd always would feel better. And so she definitely has been sick for decades, but it's always been like an on and an off thing until it didn't stop. And then it was just on for forever. And that's when we finally, had to look for a diagnosis because we didn't have any other choice at that point.
Did any of her countless doctors throughout the past couple of decades diagnose her with anything other than Lyme disease?
Yeah. So, I mean, she was diagnosed with so many things. I remember like when I was really young, but she was hospitalized for like 2 weeks, and she was diagnosed with mono at that point when she was hospitalized for those 2 weeks. She was diagnosed with MS, liver disease, fibromyalgia, depression. A lot of doctors just wanted to tell her it was all in her head and she just had depression. She's like everything under the sun she was diagnosed with. And then there were some doctors that even came back and said, oh, you know what? Well, that was totally wrong. We don't think you actually have that. And so, yeah, she's been through the ringer with the diagnosis.
So in a way, your mom paved the way for you to get your diagnosis, and she went through hell. And then you had gone through several years of this before you guys sort of got diagnosed together, it seems like, within a 1 to 2 year window.
Oh, yeah. My mom definitely went through hell and back again. And then when it was my turn to go through it, we kind of just took each other by the hand and decided we were going to go through it together. And we did. And it's been pretty amazing to see how much our relationship has grown through it because we've been through so much suffering together.
Once you guys realized that you had Lyme disease, what types of treatment did you start with?
Okay, yeah. So we did the BX protocol, which is what I just told you about. And then after, she did that for 2 years. I did it for 1. And then we started looking into other things. So we've done lots of herbal supplements. I pretty much live off of supplements, and I have ever since I got diagnosed. All different kinds, and that just kind of rotates, and depending on how I'm feeling, I take different things. We did ozone therapy for a while. Different kinds, just different kinds. We have our own ozone machine, and we did that for a while, and that helped with symptoms. I think the biggest thing for me that helped me, and both my mom did this too, was the sauna detox protocol. And pretty much that looks like you take a dose of niacin, which brings all the toxins to the surface of your skin, and you have what's called a niacin flush. And so your whole body just burns and lights up like a Christmas tree. And then you go and you sit in the sauna for about 1.5 to 2 hours, and you do it in 30-minute increments. And then you do that. I did that for about 2 months, every day for 2 months. And then you just sweat all your toxins out. And it was horrible while I was going through it. But that definitely got me to the point where I am now, where I can function, but I still have, symptoms here and there, and I have bad pain days, but I'm functioning and I'm not in a bed.
So Claire, about that sauna detox protocol, so you would take this niacin dose. Was that an oral pill you take before you'd go into the sauna?
Yeah. So pretty much the protocol, it would look like you take the niacin, you exercise for 30 minutes because that kind of activates it in your system. And then you have your niacin flush, and then you go in the sauna for 1.5 to 2 hours. And
so it sounds like that was really your game changer, that sauna detox protocol.
Oh yeah. That was at a point in my life where I really was just at this point where I'm either going to get better or I'm going to just submit to being in a bed for the rest of my life. And so I decided I was going to get better, even if I did something that sounded totally crazy. And it did when me and my mom were researching this, but it really did. It gave me a huge turnaround, and I started to see lots of improvement at that point.
Specific to the ozone therapy you mentioned earlier, we've had some guests say that it's really helped them, and others say it's actually set them back a little bit. It sounds like for you, it helped with your symptoms, but it was sort of a temporary relief. Is that accurate?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it works. I feel like it works to help with symptoms, but it was also the same concept too, that if you take a lot of ozone and then you have major Herxheimer reactions, then you're gonna set yourself back because you're not detoxing enough. And so that's what I found with that therapy.
Did you do any other therapies to help with your symptoms and heal from Lyme disease?
Oh yeah. So rice machine therapy is something that I also did when I was doing the sauna detox protocol. And that's pretty much, it's a machine that sets off frequencies. It's the concept that if you have a glass and I sing and I hit a note, that is the exact frequency of that glass, the glass will break. So pretty much what you're doing with the rife machine is you're hitting frequencies that are the exact frequency as your Lyme bacteria, and then it breaks that Lyme bacteria, it kills it. And so you pretty much just sit in a room with these, Lyme frequencies inputted into the machine, and then it outputs those frequencies. And so that was also part of the sauna detox protocol. I would usually do that for about 10 minutes. I'd sit with that machine for about 10 minutes until before you go and you take the niacin, you go into the sauna. So I did that. And then I also did bioresonance scanning, which is, another energy thing where you pretty much, you hold on to these two probes, and it scans your body energetically, and it can pinpoint imbalances in your body where it kind of can tell you where you're low on certain nutrients or what's going on in certain systems of your body. And that really helped us a lot because it pretty much helps to balance out your systems in your body so that you're almost like retraining your body to react differently instead of just always being infested with this bacteria all the time. And then we also use it to kill the Lyme bacteria too, because it's the same concept as the rife machine.
So the bioresonance scanning and the rife machine sort of were similar in the fact that they would target the frequency of the bacteria and kill the bacteria.
Yeah.
Were you discovering these therapies on your own, or did you find a Lyme literate doctor to work with you and recommend these therapies?
Yeah. So in Utah, there are no Lyme literate doctors that I know of. So me and my mom, my mom is like, despite the fact that she has this crazy disease, she's like super genius, and she just spends so much time researching because she wants to get better. And so she spent so much time looking into different therapies, and she'd come to me with a new therapy and we'd research it together, and then we would just decide that this is what we're supposed to do next. And my dad is a huge support of both of us too. So like the sauna detox protocol, you have to be monitored because like you're passing out, you're throwing up, like you have so many reactions while like you're going through this experience. So like my dad was such a support because he would monitor us. He would make sure that we were drinking enough water. He'd peel us off the floor when we passed out. And so pretty much between me and my parents, we've just been this awesome team of three that has figured it out because doctors do not help us. And they probably never will, in my personal opinion.
So I think it's just so great that you have such a supportive family and that your father is so helpful throughout your journey that you and your mother are going through. Can you talk about any other treatments that you guys did aside from the others you mentioned?
Yeah. So, and like my mom, of course, the first thing she did was the medication route, and that made her so much sicker. People always ask me why I don't take medications because that's just the thing that you do if you're a normal person. But like my answer is really that medications made my mom 20 times more sicker, and I didn't want to go that route. So we definitely did that. We did try that, but that was not the answer. And then my dad learned forms of energy medicine, which is like acupressure. And acupressure is amazing for relieving pain. It's like the same concept as acupuncture, except less like invasive. And so that has done amazing things for pain, especially like muscle pain and joint pain, because you're relieving all of these blockages in your system that have been there for who knows how long. And so my dad is amazing at that, and that's definitely helped. And then definitely things that I use to help with pain now are CBD and turmeric. And those are like the two things. Those are like the power couple when it comes to dealing with pain, because like I take turmeric every day and I take CBD almost every day. And for the most part, like unless I have like a major pain flare, which still happens, but for the most part, like I can function generally okay, like way better than I used to just by taking those two things every day.
Claire, do you take the turmeric in a pill form or do you take it in a powder form with your food?
I take it in a pill form. So I'll take anywhere from like 4 to 6 turmeric pills a day.
And you talked about the acupressure, which is a light version of acupuncture. What is that like from your standpoint as a patient? What experience is that for you?
Yeah, so for me, like at first I thought it was really weird because I was just not used to like that form of therapy. But like the more that we did it and the more that, Dad would work on me, the more I realized that it releases a ton of pressure, not only in like your muscles and your joints, but even like in your brain. I had so many mental symptoms that like just holding certain pressure points on your head and your face, it would relieve a lot of mental symptoms. And so that was an amazing experience for me, something that like I always recommend to anybody that's struggling from Lyme, because it's just it really helps with symptoms. And I believe it's not one of those things that's like an instant fix, but it does, like, I believe in the long run, it really does help. It like retrains your body to not be so like blocked and caked up all the time with these toxins. It's teaching your body to like have your channels open so that you can detox properly, so that you can heal from things that are autoimmune and things that have been in your system for years.
And is that really just putting pressure on certain pressure points throughout your body? So like a gentle massage sort of treatment? I just want to understand better what it's like for you, when you get the treatment.
Yep, that's what it is. It is very much just like gentle massage. Deep tissue massage can be super painful for Lyme people. It was for my mom. And so for me and my mom, something that's more gentle and better, it works way better for us, because it doesn't just cause like a massive Herxheimer reaction. It's very slow and gentle so that we can handle it.
We see from your pre-interview questionnaire that we have that you also did some hormone therapy. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah. So, I mean, I went to some doctors that because I have the endometriosis symptoms, and I believe that my endometriosis is really brought on by Lyme. And so a lot of the doctors said that I had like hormone imbalances and stuff, and I took a lot of hormone pills. I don't really feel like that did anything for me. Oh, also my thyroid was really messed up. And so I took thyroid medication for a while. And again, I didn't feel like it did anything for me. So eventually I just kind of weaned myself off of it and went back to doing herbal stuff for my hormones because I didn't feel like the hormones were doing too much for me.
So you also did high dose vitamin C therapy. Was that intravenously through an IV, or was that just taking vitamin C tablets?
Yeah, so that was through an IV. Because there's lots of studies that are done that like high dose vitamin C therapy helps people with cancer and with Lyme disease. And so I think my mom did it a lot more than I did. And you pretty much go into the doctor's office and they give it to you and you sit there because it has to be like a really slow drip. And you sit there for like 5 hours and get your vitamin C. And I mean, that helped kind of. It's kind of one of those things that was kind of iffy that I was like, I mean, I'm sure it'll probably help in the long run, but it just wasn't giving me or my mom the results that we were looking for. So we didn't do that for too long.
Did you do any other detox protocols other than the sauna detox protocol that you mentioned?
Yeah. So I've also I just got done doing a parasite cleansing protocol, and it's called microbe formulas. And that specifically targets the parasites because everybody with Lyme disease knows that like parasites really feed all your Lyme bacteria and really can cause havoc. And that actually has done wonders for me too, where it's killing the parasites and it's helping you to detox them out of your system. I feel like that's done really good things for me because when you have parasites wreaking havoc in your body, you're not going to heal from Lyme disease. So I just got done doing that, and that was a very good thing too.
So a very common thing most of our guests say is they take CBD oil to help with their pain. Are you comfortable sharing with our listeners what type of CBD oil you're using and where you're getting it from?
Yeah. So it's called Soul Tender CBD. That's the brand that I use. And we just order it. We order it. I think my mom met this lady once, and so we order it from her, and she's awesome, and she's awesome she gave us like a lot of really good information about it. And the one piece of advice that I would give about CBD oil is that there's so many different brands of CBD. It's like you really have to do your research about what brand is like pure and organic, and so you're not just adding extra toxins to your system. And so that's the kind of CBD that I use, and it's just like a dropper. So like I'll take like 1 dropper full a day, or if I'm having a really bad pain day, I'll take 2 dropperfuls a day, and it's kind of just like an oil.
So you also noted in your questionnaire that you use essential oils to help with your symptoms. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah. So doTERRA oils are like the first thing that my family got into that was kind of quote unquote weird. Like that was like really new to us, just starting oils. But I've learned that like it really helps, especially with like the mental symptoms. Like I almost always have essential oils diffusing in my house, and like lavender is really good for anxiety, and like anxiety is a really hard symptom for me. And so like essential oils do wonders, just breathing them in the air. I know I've tried to use them for my endometriosis pain, and they worked to a point. Definitely wasn't an all-out answer though. But yeah, and not only that, but just like going from the transformation from, eating really unhealthy food and living a really toxic lifestyle and having really hard cleaning chemicals and everything, like all of my cleaners that I use in my house, because I don't want to add extra toxins to my system, they're all made with essential oils. And like that does wonders for me because I've detoxed kind of my life so that I'm not adding extra into my system.
So Claire, you and your mother have gone through a wide variety of treatment protocols, really trial and error to see what would help, because you didn't have really much assistance from doctors there in Utah that were Lyme literate. So if you had to summarize what the best treatment options were for you, for our listeners, could you give us a high-level overview of what you'd recommend for your experience and what helped you for our listeners?
Yeah, for sure. So like step one, and I tell this to like everybody I talk to about Lyme disease, step one, change your diet. Like I eat completely refined, sugar-free, and organic. And I've done every other diet under the sun too, gluten-free, paleo, keto, you name it, I've done it. But for me, like go organic and cut sugar out of your diet. That's your first step, because what you're doing is you're cleansing your body of all the crap that's in your body so that you're not giving the Lyme more ammo to just hit yourself with. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is that you want to kill the bacteria. Whether you want to use herbs or whether you want to use the sauna detox protocol, I recommend the sauna detox protocol all the time because I feel like it's like a lot faster than any other treatment that I've done. It's 2 months of hell, but then once you get through that hell, you feel so much better. And so that was definitely one thing I did to kill the Lyme. And then you want to detox. Okay, whether you're detoxing using, whether you're juicing or whether you're in the sauna or you're doing a parasite cleanse, whatever it is, you need to make sure that you're detoxing. And so that's kind of my steps that I always tell people that I've done, because that's really what I have done and what I have continued to do to be able to get my life back.
And specific to the sauna detox protocol, so many of our other guests have used an infrared sauna to detox, and they even buy them at home, and they have portable ones, or actually ones they buy and install in their homes. But most of our guests don't take that niacin dose beforehand. So do you think that an infrared sauna is helpful to detox without the niacin, and now the niacin was just more aggressive and helped you detox quicker?
Yeah, so the niacin is definitely more of an aggressive form of detox. My one piece of advice with the sauna is that you have to know how to do it right, because when we first got our sauna, we had no idea how to use it. And so, we'd go in there for 30 minutes and, like nothing would come of it. Like I couldn't even sweat when I first started going in the sauna. And so you really have to learn, like you have to be drinking water when you're in the sauna. You have to, take the proper supplements that will help kill that bacteria and get it out of your skin. So that you're doing it correctly. I do know that there are some people that they don't take the niacin because they prefer a lot softer of an approach. And if you're that kind of person and you don't want to take the niacin, I think it definitely is still super, super beneficial for you. But I would definitely, for the first month, if you're going to get on a specific protocol for the first at least month, I would say take niacin, because it really does aid in killing that bacteria, bringing it to the surface of your skin so you can just get it out.
Are there any other supplements you'd recommend to take with the sauna detox protocol? You mentioned taking some supplements as well to help kill the bacteria and get it to come out of your skin while you're sweating. So is it just the niacin, or is there others you'd recommend as well? Yeah,
so for me, I took the niacin, but then I was also on like a bunch of other herbs too. And like for each person, it's different. Like I always tell people they have to do their research. You have to do your research and you have to kind of figure out what works for you, because if you take too many herbs that are killing things too fast, then you're going to get sick too. And so you really have to do your research. But as far as like when you're doing the protocol, like you have to be taking some form of electrolyte. And I took that before I got in the sauna so that the sauna doesn't just drain you completely. And then I would always juice my own juice, whether it was, beet juice or carrot juice or cucumber juice, celery juice. I would always juice my own juice, and I'd drink like a whole mason jar of juice while I was in there, because what you're doing is you're restoring all the nutrients that some of the sauna and the niacin is kind of putting out of your system. And that definitely helps with like feeling nauseous and lightheaded. And we definitely had a lot less passing out than we would have if we would have just gone cold turkey into the sauna.
So Claire, have your doctors acknowledged that Lyme is passed through from mother to child at birth, or is this something that you came to the conclusion of via your research?
We have talked to doctors, mostly doctors like in different countries, that they have like confirmed that this is like pretty much super likely that that's what happened. Again, there are no doctors in Utah. There are no doctors in Utah that will even recognize that Lyme disease is a disease. So it's definitely not in our area, but we have talked to doctors, all around the world that they're like, this is definitely what's happened here. This is definitely the circumstance that you're in.
Yeah, we think that it's just that for some reason we're behind the curve here, because one of our guests that will be coming out shortly after you, Lindsay, on our podcast, she's a nurse practitioner who learned that Lyme is not only congenital and it can be passed on from mother to child, but it's also potentially a sexually transmitted disease. And there's a lot of discrepancy out there, but I think our listeners should be cautious and research it on their own to determine if one of their partners are infected, or if their mother or father was infected, do they consider that they could potentially be getting it as well? And with the information out there today, we think it's a danger to not consider that when thinking about Lyme disease.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so my dad actually was diagnosed with it too, and my dad has a lot stronger of an immune system, so it has not affected him as much. It's mainly in his feet. So like his feet, like when I was in college, I wasn't even around for this because I was in college, but like his feet would swell up and he was on crutches for a while. And so at that point, like he got a Lyme diagnosis or a Lyme blood test too, and his came back positive as well. So we know that he has it as well. I'm definitely a strong believer. Like I know that Lyme disease, you can't transmit it to your spouse. You can transmit it to your family. Unfortunately, that is how Lyme disease works. I'm also a firm believer though that like if you know how to take care of your family and you know how to live a clean and a toxin-free life and you know how to be organic, like you can definitely keep your Lyme disease in your family down to a level where it will not destroy your life the way that it has destroyed so many people's lives. And so it's all about educating. It's all about learning what to do and the right steps to take so that you can keep that bacteria dormant in your system.
So Claire, it sounds like you believe Lyme never goes away, but if you take the proper steps, you can keep it at bay and live a somewhat healthy life if you take the proper steps. Is that your belief?
Yeah, that's definitely what I believe. Again, I know a lot of my siblings, I feel like a lot of my siblings probably have Lyme disease, but for the most part, it's dormant in their systems and they live full lives. And so they can continue on, but it's very common for entire families. I talk to people with Lyme disease all the time and their entire family is sick. And that's very much a norm.
And I think it's important to note that Lyme is an opportunistic bacteria. We've had many guests who believe they were infected 5, 10, 15, 20 years before they became symptomatic, and that their body was fighting it off because they had a healthy immune system. And then either due to a health issue or a traumatic life event, the Lyme bacteria then was able to really make them sick and kind of take over because of their life experiences. So it's important for you guys to be aware, I think, of your siblings, that it could rear its ugly head down the road if they have some sort of life-altering experience, a physical accident or an emotional trauma or something like that.
Yeah, for sure. So for me, I really believe that what triggered it is that I watched my mom go through trauma for like 2 years. And that was really traumatic for me. That was really hard on me to watch my mom go through that trauma. And so eventually, like watching that and being a part of that all the time, eventually my immune system went down because I wasn't mentally or emotionally handling that trauma very well. And then that's when I went down for the long run. So it's definitely, it can rear its ugly head again. That's why like I'm so passionate about living a healthy and an organic and a pure lifestyle, because that's what's going to keep you healthy, is that you have to actually make effort in your health and you have to take control of your own health and realize that it's a job. It's a full-time job to take care of yourself and to live that healthy lifestyle, but it's so important if you want to have your quality of life.
So Claire, does your family believe that your father got Lyme from your mother, or do you think that he got infected by a tick at a later point?
Yeah, so we believe that he got it from my mom. As far as we know, he's never been bit by a tick, but there's like that big percentage of people that have never been bit, but they still have Lyme. But we definitely believe that he got it from my mother. Yeah.
And people deal and cope with sickness and chronic illnesses like Lyme in a variety of ways. What has helped you the most, spiritually, physically? What has helped you the most get through this experience that you have such a positive attitude and such a positive energy to you? So what has helped you maintain that positive energy?
Yeah. So for me, number one thing would be that. So I came from a religious family. Just kind of background information. Like, I was raised in a very religious family where my parents taught me about prayer and about God. And honestly, when I was younger, I believed it, but I was very shallow in my belief and in my faith. And I didn't quite understand what it meant to allow God to heal you and to allow Christ to come into your life and to have him sustain you through your trials and your adversities. And when I got sick, that's when I had to learn that lesson, because prayer is my lifesaver. Reading the scriptures is my lifesaver. Living a life that I know that God would be pleased with me, listening to what he tells me and what I know my mission is, because he's guiding me every step of the way. That's what's gotten me through this illness. There is an enabling power that comes from the fact that Christ died for us, and he suffered all of the pains and afflictions that we've suffered so that we wouldn't have to go through our pains and afflictions alone. And knowing that empowers me to be able to live my life and to help other people, and to realize that there's a purpose for what I'm going through, and that I'm not suffering in vain. I'm suffering so that I can hopefully help other people. I feel like I'm a very different person. Again, I was very shallow and very self-centered when I was younger, but now it's like my eyes have been opened to the fact that there's so much suffering in America, in the world, and there's something that we can do about it. And that's something that we can do is that we can love people, we can be there for them, we can be their support, we can be their advocate. And that's like my entire mission in life, is so that people with Lyme disease and other chronic illness, they don't have to walk this journey by themselves, because that was the hardest part of Lyme disease for me, was that I felt like I was totally alone, until I realized that I'm not alone when I have God in my life. And that's what changed my life.
Now, Claire, can you share with our listeners how you've done your outreach on social media as part of this transformation that you've gone through?
Yeah. So I started my blog. My blog is called Chronically Beautiful. And the reason why I wanted to name it Chronically Beautiful is because I didn't want to be labeled as chronically ill. I don't believe in labeling people for whatever reason. And I just didn't want to be seen as just this chronically ill girl, because I know that I'm a daughter of God. And I wanted to say that, you know what, I'm chronically beautiful, because life still has its beauty, even with all the pain. And so one of the purposes for my blog is not only to spread the news about health and about real health and how you get your health back, but it's also to spread the news of how good God is in the journey, and how he's always there, and his blessing to every single one of his children as we go through these painful experiences. And so that's one of the main purposes of my blog and my social media, is to spread that message, because so many people have, just like me, they've discovered how much God loves them through their suffering. And if I can just spread that message and give just a little bit of hope to somebody somewhere, then that's worth it to me. And that's why I do my blog and my Instagram. And that's why I will continue to do my blog and my Instagram, is to spread that message.
Thank you for listening to the Tick Boot Camp interview with Claire Dalton. To our listeners, we have a call to action. First, if you would like to learn more about Claire Dalton and her tick disease journey, please visit her Instagram at chronicallyclaire, or her site, chronicallybeautifullife.com. Second, if you enjoyed this episode of the Tick Boot Camp podcast, please share with your friends by using the social media buttons you see at the bottom of the post. Third, Tick Boot Camp has created a Tick Bite blueprint that is inspired by information that has been provided by past guests on this podcast. We urge you to visit our website at www.tickbootcamp.com to view the blueprint. Please note we would appreciate any input or improvements you would like to make. Fourth, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Google Play Music, or Spotify to get the automatic episode updates of our Tick Boot Camp podcast. And finally, we thank you, our listeners, for your comments on our past podcasts. Please take a minute to leave us an honest review on iTunes, on Instagram, or on our website. We make it a point to read every single one of our reviews. Thank you for listening.